All right, welcome to episode 2 of our podcast, Everything is Everything, where we dive into the topic that everything is connected if you take the right steps. Last time, they said the intro was too long, so I'm going to get started immediately so people don't lose attention. I'm going to tell you some perspective that's going to literally change the way you view the world, all right?
Let's do it.
You tell me what you think about it, all right? I want to hear what you think.
I got you.
So listen, you get 100 years on this planet if you're lucky, right? 100 years if you're lucky. The oldest people on the planet have experienced 0% life. All right, and here's why. Like I said, you get 100 years on this planet if you're really lucky. That's really lucky. That's real lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Life has been going on for 3.8 billion years on this planet. That's just that we know of.
Mm-hmm.
That's just that we know of. So who knows how long life has really been on this planet? That's just what everybody's told us. You can look it up, you know.
Right.
But if you do the math, you could probably do the math in your head, the basic math. 100 divided by 3.8 billion, you know what that gets you? What that represents, that number?
What does it represent?
It represents the amount of life that an 100-year-old person has seen, right? If you do the math, 100 divided by 3.8 billion, that's the percentage of life that they've seen. If you do that math, it rounds to 0. It does. It rounds to actually 0. It's 0.0000002 something, right? Or something like that. But the problem with that math right there is that assumes that 100-year-old person has seen every single thing while they were alive. Every single thing, which obviously is impossible. Yeah. So if you factor in the fact that you can only be at one place at one time looking at one thing, that number is infinitely smaller. How do you feel about that?
I feel like as we go through life, I feel like it's all about living in the moment. So if you're trying to think about too many things, or you're trying to look at too many things, you're not going to get the full concept of everything. See, when you're living your life and you go one stage at a time, if you're trying to do multiple different things at one at a time, you're not going to have your attention fully divided to everything. You're going to focus on one specific thing, get that thing done, and then you're going to move out. Anybody that's like a professional multitasker or anything,
that's real hard though.
It's real hard.
That's real hard,
and
bro.
It creates stress and it creates problems within their life. That's why, if anybody that does multiple things, there's so much stress going on in their life. That's why they have issues. That's why they have problems. But when you put your attention towards something and you focus 100% on that thing,
you know what that's called? It's called being present.
Right. That's present in the moment.
Actually, yeah, and that's so important. I'm glad you brought that up because it is crucial to be present in everything that you do.
Absolutely.
If you're focused on a million things at once, then you're not going to be given 100% to what it is that you want to do.
Right.
And it's just super important to remember that no matter what, you only have the present, really.
Right.
When you really take a few steps back and think about it, you don't have much, The past is just a memory. The future is just an idea arising in the present. So if you really look at what you have, you just have right here, right now, and nothing else.
Right. You only have this moment. So what are you going to make of it? Are you just going to sit and think about the past and the mistakes of all you made? Or are you going to learn from the mistakes, live in the present moment, and correct those mistakes for the future? That's how you have to live your life. Your life is just a continued cycle. So you have to understand how to get better, live in that present moment, and then take whatever you learn and apply it so you can learn and be better in the future. That's how you got to move.
Speaking of being present, I think that it's just super important to remember that, and actually I think about this quite often, the fact that, there's so many people in the world, right? Like I said earlier, there's 8 billion people on the planet. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I said that earlier, but 8 billion people on the planet, right?
That's a lot.
8 billion people on the planet.
That's a lot.
So if you really think about it, I don't believe that the human mind is built to have so much going on. You know what I mean? Technology, all this stuff that's going on in today's society, I just really don't think that it's just the human brain is meant to be knowing what everybody else on the planet is doing. As a matter of fact, this is the first time in all of history where you're able to see what so many people are doing thanks to social media. You know, you scroll on Instagram, you see all these pictures, you go on Snapchat, you go on YouTube Shorts, you go on YouTube, you go on all these social media apps, and you can see exactly what every single person that you look at is doing at that exact moment in time. But I don't think that the human mind is actually meant to see that kind of thing. I think because that really defeats the purpose of being present. Don't you agree?
I think when there's a lot of distractions going on, it takes you away from being present in a moment. Just because if you think about it, if you're trying to be present, right?
Yeah.
And let's say you just have this person over here and this person over here, and you're trying to focus on this path, right? You're trying to focus this way. But you have this person pulling and tugging at you.
Oh, yeah.
That's taking you away and trying to pull you back. When you're trying to stand and maintain your ground and trying to hold your ground, but you always have something tugging and pulling. It's just like another distraction on top of you. So how I feel like I stay focused is what I really think about is like how to build my mind, how to have mind strength, how to focus and be disciplined and stay in the moment for me.
To get what you want to get ultimately.
Because I know that if I have a goal, right? Let's just say my goal is I need to get to college, right?
Right.
Everybody's goal is I need to get to college.
Everybody's got a different goal.
Everybody has a different goal.
Super
but for me,
remember.
Right now, my goal is just getting to college.
Yeah,
graduate, get my diploma, get into college. Now, let's say we have drinking, drugs, smoking. I don't do that. But let's just say that was tugging on me, right? And my goal is to get to college. Now, if this is pulling on me, that's a distraction. I have to have the discipline in order to know that this is going to pull me away, but this is my goal.
You know, that reminds me, that's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up because I remember you were talking about this person over here is pulling you in a different direction. I think that that reminded me that it's just so crucial to have the right people around you.
Right.
You know, because at its basic level, not everybody has your interest in mind.
No, they don't.
Unfortunately.
That's a great point.
I wish it was.
That's a great point.
But I've known you for almost forever. You know what I mean? I've known you for a long time. And we've been friends for a long time too. So, I mean, I feel comfortable talking about this because, you know, I've seen a lot, and I understand that a lot of people don't necessarily want the best for you, and that's really hard to grasp because you want to feel that everybody has your best interest in mind. But unfortunately, I mean, if you really look at it, a lot of people are like, you know, crabs in a bucket.
Right.
And when I say crabs in a bucket, because do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. And I know for me, I could personally speak on that because I run a brand. I run Stay True. You know what I'm. All my Stay True supporters out here, you know what I'm saying. You know I gotta rep it, but you know.
I was repping his brand last time.
Stay True. You know what I'm saying. This is me. This is my heart, my life, my everything, and you know I run a brand, but you know there's not always gonna be supporters. Yeah. There's always gonna be people that will doubt you, that will hate on you, that will just not support you and just try to, you know, discourage you. And I understand that. That's part of life.
Yeah.
There are people that we don't even know that are hating on us. But the way that I think about it is they see something in you that's going right.
Oh,
but
yeah.
When something's not going right in their life, they take that hatred out and they see what's going right in your life and they try to apply that to you to bring you back down to where they're at.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's that people sometimes they get mad at you and they don't like you because you're not struggling as much as they thought you would.
Right. They didn't think that you was in a position.
That's crazy.
They didn't think you were on level. See, people got to understand when you apply yourself and you have determination and you have willpower to get where you want to get, it sets you apart from where they want to be at. Because they want to be where you're at, but you're on a different mind clearance and a different mind level and perspective that they can't reach your level because they don't want to go there. They're not willing to take those steps to get to where they need to be. And because they won't take those steps, they get mad and angry at you because they see you on a level of higher clearance.
That's a great way to put it, high clearance. But going back to that point about crabs in the bucket, do you actually know what I was talking about?
No, I need to explain that. I want to hear that.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So I don't know if you've ever seen crabs in a bucket.
What, they all like fighting each other or something?
They're all fighting each other, but say that bucket is full, yeah?
Mhm.
There's a crab that's about to escape. The other crabs will literally reach up,
Pull
pull
it
them back down,
Okay.
because they're like, if I can't escape,
Right.
you can't escape.
Right. You saying with me. And
Yeah,
that's what
that's
a lot of people like to do. When they see that you're on the threshold of crossing into something new or
Ooh.
something that's better in your life, they will do everything that's within their power to pull you back down to where they think you should be.
Bro.
So it's difficult to try not to fall in, because you're like, damn, those are like my bros, or like, damn. But you gotta understand, not everybody is your bro. Not everybody is your friend. You might think that, but they don't have your best interests.
Yeah, you gotta get in the
You
right
have to
mindset.
maintain your interests and maintain your heart. That's why I always tell people, you gotta guard your heart. You
Yeah, with
gotta
your
know.
life.
You gotta know what's good for you.
You know what that reminds me of, bro? When you said threshold of change, bro?
Mm-hmm.
That really reminds me of this thing it's probably the most liberating threshold of change that there is. And it comes from yourself. You
Right.
know? And
Definitely.
a lot of people, they try to look to the outside world for happiness.
You can't do
There's
it.
a big problem with that. You know what
can't
it
do
is?
What is it? Tell me.
The problem is that you can't find happiness in the distance, because what happens when you lose those things?
Mm.
It's something in the outside world, what happens when you don't have it, right? But what's really important, the most liberating realization that I've come to is that you understand that you're a sensitive person. You know, I've come a long way in the last however many years, and even looking back from like a year ago, I was a whole different person.
Right.
But the realization that I came to is that I'm sensitive, and I always need things to be a certain way, or else I get upset. And that is so important, because I'm sure you can relate to that too.
I think I can.
And you know why? You know why you can relate to that? Because think about the things that you get upset at, right? You know, I'm not saying you get upset a lot. I'm not saying you're a patient person. But think about the things that you do get upset at. What do you get upset at?
I think I get upset when, like for me, when I'm chasing something and it's taking a long time, because I am very patient, and I think I've been doing better with staying disciplined, with being patient with others, and allowing myself
It's important
to, just
Crucial.
stay grounded. But I think when I'm chasing something, and I'm good in stage by stage, but there's always that one stage where it's always the darkest time, and I have to get through that time, and that's when the impatience comes. That's when like jealousy and anger and envy start to come, and that's when I have to really sit down and think to myself,
yourself, right?
you have to take a moment to step back. And I think people, they don't like to take that step back, because they think, oh, I'm going down. You have to go down to elevate yourself even more.
Take 2 steps back, take 10 steps forward, right?
You have to take a step down to elevate yourself.
That's like Snoop Dogg or something.
Mm.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up question though. That's a really good point that you brought up there. You know, when you're at your lowest point, you really tend to bubble up a little more. You get more angry and this and that. But I already asked you what you get upset at. Follow-up question: what do you not get upset at? Because I'm gonna make you think about something. And it's gonna be crazy.
Okay.
It's gonna be a realization. What do you not get upset at?
What do I not get upset at? Actually, I really don't get upset at a lot of things. But what do I not get upset at?
I'll tell you what you don't get upset at. A vast majority of things. A vast majority of things you don't get upset at. If I told you that a leaf fell off a tree right outside, does that upset you?
No.
If I told you that my neighbor was having a conversation about, what he did at work today, does that upset you?
No, the natural things. The
It doesn't
natural
upset
things
you.
in life.
It doesn't upset you, but here's another question. What do you think the difference is between something that does upset you and something that doesn't upset you? What do you think the difference is?
I think what does upset me is like if somebody says something or somebody is acting a certain way. I think it upsets me only because I know how I act. So I think when I see other people like acting out, it's hard for me to not get upset, because I'm like, wow, what's going wrong in their life that they're acting out a certain way? So me, like, I'm like a very natural, like kind of like caring type of person. So I'm always trying to figure out and trying to help people out. So when I understand and see something that's not right, it upsets me, even though like if I can't do something or I can't intervene. Not being able to like intervene in situations like maybe like the one of the things that can't help.
But what do you think the difference is between something that does upset you and something that doesn't upset you?
I think it's just emotional based for me.
I'll tell you what I believe. The difference between things that do upset you and things that don't upset you is whether they directly affect you or not. Like I told you, right? If I said a leaf fell off the tree outside, you get upset at that?
Nah, that's just natural.
Not in the slightest. But if I told you that somebody, told your mom something that was offensive, you get upset at that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because that directly affects your emotions, yeah?
Right. It's that emotional, what I said. It's emotional.
Exactly like you said. But here's my point. It doesn't sound like... I'm going to connect the pieces right now.
Go ahead.
I believe that every single person on planet Earth has narcissistic tendencies. And that is... And this is because they only get upset when things directly affect them. And it's completely natural. I'm not going to sit here and act like, it's totally wrong to be upset because something affects you. That's just how life works.
Right.
But it is narcissistic, and here's why. Let me give you an example.
Go ahead.
Narcissist. You know the story of Narcissus?
Nah, let me know.
The story of Narcissus is like a very old story. Somebody that's so engulfed by the reflection that they just didn't... They went to the lake. Narcissus went to the lake every day, and he was studying his reflection, how perfect he thought he was, right? So here's the problem. If you're sitting there in a lake, yeah, and you're looking at yourself,
right?
All you see is yourself. Right? If somebody, it could be the most beautiful lake ever. There could be peacocks on the other side. It could be crystal clear. There could be dolphins doing backflips in the middle of it. There could be any number of things. But if you ask Narcissus what that lake was like, he wouldn't be able to tell you.
All he could tell you is about himself.
All he could tell you is that, I don't know, but I will tell you, my reflection was beautiful.
Great.
My reflection was beautiful. But what was the lake like? What was the lake like?
I can't tell you.
So my question is, if you bypass, and this is exactly what we're doing, and it sounds stupid, but this is exactly what every single person is doing on a daily basis. They get upset at things when they directly affect them. Like I told you, he gets upset when something comes into his reflection. Say there's a ripple in the middle of the lake. He doesn't care about that.
It's when it comes near him.
It's when that
starts affecting.
It's when he can't see his reflection as clearly anymore. That's when he gets upset. But that's exactly what happens on a daily basis with us. All we see is we look out at the world, but all we see is ourselves. All we see is the things that affect us directly. All we know is what we're conscious of.
Right.
Yeah? So my question is, what happens when you succeed in forgetting yourself? What happens when you succeed in looking at the world for what it is without this foggy lens of whether it affects you personally or not?
So I think when you start, number one, if you start forgetting, I just want to say this. If you start forgetting that you're in the moment, then that's when you start to lose yourself, because then you're starting to lose vision. You're starting to lose clarity. You're starting to lose understanding. So now, once you've lost all of this, what do you really have? Because let's just say you're so focused on yourself and you forget everything else. You've just lost consciousness of what else is happening. You're not being a person that's well-rounded. You're not being a person that's well-minded. Because if you don't know about what's going on here, what's going on in this part of the world, if you don't know what's happening, what are you going to talk about? How are you going to be able to...
I'll tell you what they talk about.
They're going to talk about themselves.
They're going to talk about everybody else.
Right. So you have to be conscious and remember to stay conscious, whether that's just like going on a walk, seeing nature, reading a book, or just something that will...
Whatever makes you happy, though, right? Whatever brings your consciousness back to the present moment.
Whatever reminds you to be in that present moment. See, some people don't understand how to take advantage of a moment. They don't understand what it's like to be in the presence. That's why when you see people that are just lost, and you can tell when somebody's lost, so you just see them walking out on the street, just doing nothing, just not taking advantage of their life. That's what happens when you lose consciousness of being in the present moment. like people that are just free caring. They don't care what's going on in their life. They're just like, I don't know, man.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I don't know what I'm gonna do today. I'm just gonna hope and pray something falls into my life. That's not taking advantage of the present moment.
You're right.
You're not gonna gain nothing from just being loosey goosey and just sitting back. You gotta understand that. Listen, I gotta get this done. I gotta get what's done and do it for me.
Yeah.
What's gonna benefit me.
I think that's really important, and I'm so glad that you connected that back to being present in the moment, because this is exactly the point of the podcast. The point of the podcast is that you can connect any topic to any topic if you take the right steps.
Right.
We just went through however many topics, I don't know what, like 6, 7 topics, and we circled it back around to the same exact topic. They all connect.
They all connect.
And it's just so important to remember that.
Right.
You know, and that's why it's so important for everyone to realize that being present is so important.
It is.
Because, and like you said, I mean, I just think it's crucial.
It's very.
There's just so many people out there that, and let me ask you this. Why do you think that people don't like to talk about themselves? And it's so hard to have a conversation, especially at this age, with somebody that, when it's not about somebody else. You ever notice that?
I think I do notice it a lot.
I knew you noticed that,
I do
bro.
notice it because I think people sometimes like to boast, but some people try not to.
Of course,
And,
yeah.
you know, I think it's okay because I think some people do very well with being humble and staying back. When people have a sense of humbleness, it gives them more charisma. It makes them more charismatic.
Oh, absolutely.
When you have humbleness.
People like that.
So I think when you see somebody who's more likely to boast, I think it's because they're trying to, number one, they're trying to show that they can do all these different things to try and make up for an area that they lack. See, when somebody comes all out with their chest up in your face, maybe like they in the gym or something like that, or they just want to show something, I think they're trying to make up for an area that is empty in their heart. That's what I think when I see people that boast. Number one, I don't think about what you're boasting. I think about what you're lacking. That's what I think about.
Isn't that kind of a negative mindset, though?
I mean, to me, it's not. Because
Why not? Explain.
To me, I think, like, number one, if you come up to me, right, and you just like, yo, what up, bro? Like this, like this. I'll be like, yo, what's good? I might see that you putting in work, but then if you trying to put all this stuff on me, I'm gonna start asking you like, yo, what's going on with you? How's everything going in your life? And then I'm gonna be like, look, I found that one area that you was lacking in, and what you trying to show me. That's how I kind of see it.
So you almost feel like people are compensating for something when they do that.
It doesn't apply to everyone.
Right.
I'm saying,
oh, yeah, of
you
course,
can
it's always
see it.
exception.
You can see it in some people.
I think you're 100% right. I actually do think you're 100% right, and I think there are people out there that try to compensate for things by being overly, aggressive, dramatic, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I think it's important to remember that there are exceptions to every rule. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that these people, they almost haven't realized this self-realization that I'm talking about earlier when I was telling you that you understand that you need things to be a certain way in order for you to feel comfortable.
Right.
And when I tell you that's liberating, I mean it. It's liberating because then you can start to change that.
Right.
You start to understand, and then whenever you get upset at something, you say, okay, listen, why am I getting upset at this? Because it directly affects me.
Right.
Why am I getting upset at this? Because I have a way that I think I'd rather it be, and it's not that way. And at the end of the day, every single, problem, all the stress, resistance, it all comes from fears and desires. It all comes down to fears and desires. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean by that? Fears meaning something is a certain way, and you don't want it to be the way that it might be. And desires meaning something is a certain way, and you want it to be the way that it's not. Right? And that's a big problem because a lot of times people want things to be a different way, but the moment in front of you, it doesn't care about whether or not you want it to be a different way.
Right.
It's just going to be the
Mm-hmm.
way that it is. I was talking to somebody about this just yesterday. They came up to me and they asked me a question about how they could get better. And I told him about, just take one step at a time. And he said, why am I not further along on my journey? And I said, look, man, like, it's very simple. I think you've come a very far way, a long way. But the problem is you really can't change where you are right now. You can change where you are, your trajectory for the future. But where you are right now is where you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
You could do active work to better yourself, which is why this podcast even exists. I think it's crucial to be better. It's better than aiming for happiness. It's better than aiming for all of these other things like material wealth. Like, being a better person is how you get material wealth, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
I talked about this last pod. I literally said, I was like, the only way it gets better is if you get better.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But when you realize that, it's almost like you're playing a game of tennis, right? It sounds stupid, but you're almost like playing a game of tennis. And say you have a strong spot. One side of the court is your strong spot. So every time you hit the ball to the other person, you run over to your strong spot immediately, yeah? And you stay there. The other person isn't necessarily going to hit it to the strong spot.
They're gonna try and
They're
throw
gonna,
you off.
as a matter of fact, they would be stupid to hit it to your strong spot.
Right.
They're gonna, if they're a decent player, they're gonna try to hit it away from your strong spot.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, you're going over to your strong spot, and then you're getting mad at the other player
Because they're
not hitting it to where you're strong.
Mm.
And it's like you wish it was a certain way, but that's just not how the game works. And as stupid as that sounds, that's how people are
I know. And I
taking life.
think the beautiful thing about that is when something starts hitting your weaknesses, how do you bounce back from that? What are you going to do to say, okay, I see clearly that I have flaws, that I have weaknesses. So now you have to change your mindset. You have to flip your mindset in order to start thinking that I have to start changing my ways and my routine to kind of like offset those weaknesses, right? So now you have to be like, all right, let's just say I'm falling into a lot of temptation. That's my weakness. I'm falling into a lot of temptations. I'm starting to get loose and I'm falling off of my determination, my path, and my grind.
Your discipline.
Understood. My discipline, right? So now you know that's a weakness for you. So now you have to start kind of changing yourself and being like, hey, I got to get back on track. It's time for me to switch my mindset and know that if I want to get to this certain place, I have to lock myself in. I have to take myself away from those weaknesses and try to remove myself from situations that will put me near my temptation. Because I know that I can't handle that.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard somebody talking about that. He said, man, we all know who you are when things are going your way.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to smile, you're going to be happy. But the question is, who are you when things go south?
When they don't go your way.
Who are you?
Right.
Who are you when things go south?
I think for me, I feel like I've been in situations where things just didn't go my way.
Oh yeah, everybody has.
And
of course,
I feel like everybody's been there. And for me, when something doesn't go my way, I try to think about why it didn't go my way. And sometimes that's just not explainable. Sometimes it's just life. Like a basketball game. Think about it like this. I think about it like this. Maybe we lost the game. And it's like, it's a game we should have won.
You tried your hardest though.
No matter how that game ended or outcome, we know that everybody put their life on the line for that game. They put their blood, sweat, and tears into that game, and they work for it.
Right.
Now,
sometimes you come up short, though.
Let's just say we lost on a buzzer beater. That happened to us.
Happened.
That's basketball. You gotta understand. That's life. You gotta understand that that's a part of life, and that's gonna happen. Now you have to come back stronger. And how do you respond to that? Your response is the biggest part of that. Because how you respond means you change your mindset. It's how you change your thought. Because what we do is what we think is what we do. So if you think coming
100%.
if you think, all right, we just lost this game on a buzzer beater. We're going to make sure that we will do whatever it takes to beat this team 100%. We're going to shut them down from the start. So you have to attack challenges and things right at the source of the point.
You know, we just hear these things like these cliches that, you know, life isn't fair so many times, but I just wonder who actually gets it. You know what I'm saying? I wonder who actually thinks about that. Everyone knows life isn't fair, but in times of trial, who actually gets it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I want to speak on that because you said life isn't fair. And when I always hear that, I'd be like,
It upsets you during the moment,
I
don't it?
always think, I'm like, okay, if you say that life isn't fair, what's going on in your life that's not making it fair? Because you have decisions that you can make that change your life. But you're not making those decisions because you're trying to process other things that are not allowing you to be in the moment.
Well, you know what else? Well, actually, yeah, you're 100% right. You're trying to process. You know what you're trying to process? You're trying to process the comparison between what is and what you think it should be.
Because I think a lot of people, they think that they're just going to have these easy decisions to make. And when when something challenging or something hard comes their way, they kind of just start to flee back. See, some people, any leader that you know has had a time in their life where they've had to come head on with a challenge. And some people, they like to take a step back. What a leader will do is he's going to take it head on no matter what the outcome is going to be. Because he knows that if he puts his foot in the door, the breakthrough and the opportunity on the other side is going to be 10 times greater than if he went back.
You're 100% right. You're going to do 100% better. You're going to do better in every aspect of your life if you deal with what is and not what you think it should be. 100%. And you'll do better in every aspect of your life because, like I said earlier, it's not going to change just because you want it to be a certain way.
Right.
Things don't just change because you want them to be a certain way. You have to do something about it. And make no mistake about it, just because I'm saying you shouldn't want things to be a certain way or think that wanting things is going to change it, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't want things at all.
I think we want things in our life to go a certain way. But just because we want it to be that way doesn't mean it's going to be that way. See, you got to understand that no matter what happens in your life, you're always going to have decisions to make. Things are always going to happen in life. It's just a part of life. There's nothing that we can do besides just actively and constantly like try to better ourselves. But there's nothing that we can do to change life as a whole.
It isn't fair.
Like as people. So you just have to understand the mindset. And I think what we were talking about, like perspective, having clear perspective and having clear mindset allows you to better like understand life, but yet how to make decisions for your life.
I can't think of a better way to end the pod. That all connected perfectly. One more time. Everything is everything. Everything is connected if you take the right steps. Thank you so much, my boy, for coming out tonight.
I got
you. My absolute boy. I've known you for a minute.
Absolutely.
And we're going to end the pod right there.
Right there. Let's go, baby.
All right. Dude, that was fire. That was insane.